You know exactly that feeling when you're in a state of fight or flight, when you're in a state of true panic and fear. And ultimately what drives this fear and this panic onwards is fear and panic itself. When you fear the intense bodily sensations associated with anxiety, it's like pouring petrol onto a fire. You make it worse once you start responding to your anxious sensations with more fear, with more anxiety. And this is the destructive cycle in which we see individuals who suffer with anxiety go down into. And it is very important to understand the mechanics of anxiety and to mention that when we fear anxiety, when we resist it, it persists. The way we transform it is to accept it, to embrace it, to move with it, and to ultimately get excited by it. And also to a really radical approach, if you really want to make sure you don't have panic attacks again, is to listen to McDonagh's words when he said, go into the places you fear and demand to have a panic attack, and you will be able to demand the sensations, demand the fear, demand the panic. And this tells your brain and your nervous system and your body that you are in control. You were saying to the anxiety that, okay, you know, I understand that you're here, I understand that you're screaming at me, but I'm going to choose to put you to the side for a moment. I'm not disregarding you, I'm not ignoring you. That doesn't work. Ignoring anxiety does not work at all. But ultimately, what works is to acknowledge it for what it is, accept it, embrace it, and ultimately it doesn't have to be, I mean, you know, none of this is complicated, but it is not easy by any stretch of the imagination. You need to learn to become comfortable in your anxious discomfort. So let me try and think about, I've had many panic attacks when I was suffering with anxiety, like in the clutches of anxiety disorder, and not having the right information is just, you feel like you're sort of swimming against the tide. You sort of feel like you're losing a fight in battle. You're fighting a losing battle when you resist anxiety and you try and cope with it. I remember I used to exercise a lot. I used to exercise a lot to try and cope with my sensations. I remember trying to, of course, distract myself, distraction techniques. And ultimately, this may be good for the moment, but we don't get to the root issue. We simply just cope with just symptoms. It's sort of like a doctor that, you know, my experience with doctors and GPs and stuff, just to sort of segue onto this, is I think other people can relate to this in regards to mental health. That when it comes to mental health issues, I was thrown, the doctor threw medication at me, and everybody else, I think, on this planet has had this experience, because it's just easier for doctors to do that. And obviously, it's in the name, general practitioner, GP, general practitioner. They are general in their approach. They may be experts in certain fields, of course, but in their role with as a doctor, you know, they only can prescribe and recommend certain things. And so that is sort of a good analogy to say that when we cope with anxiety, when we try and alleviate it by, you know, coping strategies and things like that. I used to do meditation, cold showers. And of course, I am not saying that any of these things are bad. Actually quite the opposite. These things are good. These things are very good for our lifestyle, for overall our mental health as well. But it is fruitless when it comes to fixing anxiety disorder. This is really what it is. And how we fix it is, it sounds very counterintuitive when I found out about it. Found out about the approach, when I found out about Sean Castle's videos, when I found out about Claire Weeks, when I found out about McDonagh with his Dare anxiety book. So ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, if you are struggling with panic attacks, know that you are not alone, and it is to stop resisting your emotion, the intense bodily sensations. When we fully embrace it for what it is and do not resist it, when we see it for what it is. And once we learn to strip our fear away from fear itself, then ultimately the anxiety disorder transforms, and then we move out of the disorder. So guys, let me know what you think. I hope this was helpful to someone. God bless, and thanks for watching.